me tell you a little bit about Brooks Allen. He has actually two jobs, which, it's not hard enough to do any one of these jobs. He actually has two jobs. He's the Senior Education Policy Advisor to Governor Gavin Newsom, and also serves as the Executive Director of the State Board. I don't know how he tries to balance both of them, but really it should be two different gigs there, and he does it all. I know there was a joke amongst us in the Sacramento circles that a couple of years ago they were expanding, some of the capacity on the staff, and I think, we were kind of joking. It's like, it's the keep Brooks Allen employed job because we need him to keep him around. So we were actually happy that he actually got some support to deal with all the other issues. I'll tell you a little bit about his background then and tell you kind of our why on why we were awarding him. We were having this conversation yesterday, and I think it was Yvonne telling our audience that oftentimes, we come to Sacramento and we're on our advocacy visits and we want to see, the person, right? Like the member, the elected official. We're going to hear from the SPI here in a few minutes. We've had the governor at some of our other events, but it's really the people behind the scenes, really, that are really making all this work, right? That are taking that input, giving the recommendations, and oftentimes it's better to meet with those folks behind the scenes. So I actually think like an individual like Brooks Allen, and he gets some FaceTime. I think he's a well-known commodity to many of our members. But it is those people behind the scenes that I think deserve more of the credit, and that's why we felt really good about this. I actually hate when people read my bio, so I'm not going to read it, but I'm going to tell you a little bit just to see kind of the varied past that he's had here. So in addition to before his service here with the governor's office, he also has served as an assistant superintendent with Marin County. He was a CCE liaison and legal counsel at Marin County Office of Education. He was policy director and assistant legal counsel at the state board under Governor Brown, so he served on multiple administrations. He also worked for the ACLU Foundation of Southern California for 10 years as a staff attorney. I think he might have sued us once or twice when I was in LA Unified, but we'll let that go. He was doing some good work there. And just on and on in terms of his legal career, he's gone some pretty good schools. He went to Stanford and, got his law degree from Yale, was an upward bound coordinator, so we have that in common. So just you could see on and on his career, even from the legal path, has all been connected, like Yvonne said, with Almer Succi, really with students, with kids. And then most recently, kind of where he has really been a key cog in everything the state does. In the year after, we all talk about 2020 and in different perspectives. So it kind of had, it evolved. And you folks heard, those of you that were joining us for whether it be our superintendent's meetings, our lunch breaks, or, all these other meetings. And it kind of trickled throughout it's starting in that spring and evolved into that fall and actually lasted for a couple of years where we were literally having daily communications with the governor's office. Daily communication because the environment was changing so much, right? Because the rules were changing by the day. And Brooks said when he came on board that year was an important piece of that, right? He was the person that was not only calling us to give us the updates. I will say I would get a little nervous when I would get a Sunday night call and it's Brooks Allen's call. I was like, uh-oh, what is this going to mean? And what our members going to freak out? That was always the thing that I was seeing when I saw his name pop up on my cell phone. But over and over again, and I think this goes back to the theme where we appreciated, he was always asking, what are your folks going to feel about this? This is the direction we're thinking about. What is this going to mean in practice? Of course, he had to go back and take it to bigger teams and make some considerations. And then one other piece that I think was really important, so many of these health decisions, what was the adage that we were saying over and over? That a lot of the decisions that were being made by the state were being made by public health officials, right? Not necessarily educators. Well, one of the important pieces, and I give credit to the administration and to Brooks specifically, is that he was one of those voices trying to give that other perspective in those rooms, in having those discussions with those public health officials to give them some perspective, like this is what it's going to mean for the field. This is what this is going to mean in practice. So I think I could go on and on myself as well. I think it's safe to say that Brooks is one of those universally respected people here in this town. We know we could go to him. We know that, and I've just talked about most of his jobs as it pertains to the governor's office, not to mention the work that the state board has done there and all the work that is continuing on in terms of our accountability system and thinking through all of these changes, the pauses we've had to take because of the pandemic, and what does that mean ramping up. I take a lot of pride in being able to award this year our second Friend of Education Award winner to Brooks Allen. We're going to look for your award too, Brooks.
Thank you. As Edgar kind of pointed out at the beginning, I am most comfortable behind the scenes, so I don't love being up here. And I'll just say I'm incredibly touched and honored to be the second friend. I'm like the other wingman that you might have. I feel like I need a shout out to Region 13 if I want a good reception right up here. Learn to map a room quickly. I'll just say, and I'll keep it brief, because I think both the theme of you all being here this week is about how the folks that work in and around Sacramento can listen, right? It's not here to kind of tell you things, but it's here to listen, which has really been the theme of the relationship with ACSA. I think you all know this well. I think you are incredibly fortunate to have a real powerhouse team sitting up here at the table, and that you've got here with Edgar and Yvonne and Megan and the whole crew, and of course Dr. Potter and all the rest. And can't say, Gina, seeing you and your dad. To me, I come from a family of educators. My dad's no longer here with us, but was a 30-year educator. My mom worked in schools. I think for so many of us, that's the story. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins, my sister. We're all in this because we care deeply about children. We care deeply about advancing opportunity. And ultimately, and the one thing I just wanted to share a little bit today ahead of, I know, what our upcoming meetings, is we care deeply about the mission of public schools and the promise of public schools, what that means for all children from all walks of life, regardless of challenges they face, regardless of learning abilities. We fundamentally believe that. You all wouldn't be here in this room doing this work that is so incredibly difficult day in and day out. You know, I think my mom worked in a central office. She mowed the lawns. She called people when they were sick. She kept the minutes for the board. You know, she did everything. I know for so many of you, that's your day-to-day roles. You're literally dealing with the smallest things and then the largest things. Why we do that is fundamentally because of that belief in public schools, and that's true for the folks that I've come to staff, and I'm proud to support with Governor Newsom and Dr. Lynn Darling-Hammond, our state board president. And fundamentally, I think that's the challenge we all face. And I think that we see that across the state, we see that nationally. And I think when you have an opportunity to talk about, and I saw the leave behinds, among others made sure that we had that. I think when you leave behind your priorities and the bills and things you want, I would also just offer one suggestion for whatever it's worth, which is if you also share, and I'm sure many of you are planning to do this, those successes. What are those bright, shiny lights? What's working really well? What would you like to see expanded upon? What would you like to see built upon? Where would you like to see the state get out of the way so you can do more of it? But also maybe, hey, where would you like to see the state kind of lean in and provide more support so we can see that on scale? So what's really working wonderful in some of your classrooms can be the same things that's working across the state, because we know that in all too many of our schools, districts, frankly, even at the state level, we have a lot of turnover. Right? We have a lot of folks coming in. It's hard work. It's hard work in the classroom. It's hard work in the district central office. And so we see folks leaving. We need your institutional knowledge. We need you guys helping point out what's working really well so we can focus on that. We also need to all of us make that collective case for the promise of public education and that mission of what we're delivering for our students. That fundamentally is at question. It's at question in state conversations, it's in question in national conversations, and fundamentally for all of us who believe in that promise, and the promise of every child and the promise of every school, it's essential and incumbent upon us to help carry that message. And so that's why it's been so incredibly wonderful to work with both many of you in this room who I've had phone calls with, we've been in group settings, I've had individual conversations, as well as the whole ACSA team, to hear those challenges. And most of those conversations, particularly when I started in October 2020, were largely about the challenges of how everything we're navigating, as well as those successes and how we can build upon those. And so I really hope that in your conversations in the coming days with our legislators, of course, also some of my colleagues you'll see later today, we can hear that, hear the criticisms, hear the challenges, but also hear the things that at the state level we can help amplify and lift up and make sure those successes on behalf of each and every child really succeed. So thank you. I mean, fundamentally, from the deepest part of my heart, thank you for what you guys do each and every day. I know I say that on behalf of the board I staff and the governor, and really good luck with you the next couple of days. And thank you. This means a ton. I appreciate it.